we're back. This is Steve Sanson, Andre Haynes with Veterans in Politics. Before we get into any rants, I just want to let everybody know who the two guests are going to be today. We're going to have Victor Miller, who's the Boulder City Justice of the Peace. And then we're going to have Phil Kohn, who is the Clark County Public Defender. And, you know, Andre, a lot of people don't know who the hell a Clark County Public Defender is. They always know who the DA is, but nobody know who the hell a Clark County Public Defender is.
It's important to know, because if you're in a position where you can't afford, your own private counsel and your case is assigned, you might want to know who that person is and about their background.
Yeah, that's true. It's true, because apparently I think he has about 180 attorneys working for him.
Right. He sure does. And
he was appointed, so everybody should know who the public defender is, and that's what this program is all about, to educate the folks out there. I have a few rants.
Okay.
Yeah. First, well, this is not really a rant. I just wanted to thank the ACLU for putting on that forum when they wanted the use. It was a use of force forum. People that came and shared their stories and ideas about the Metropolitan Police Department and the police department as a whole. But one thing I didn't like is when there was one guy in there. He was talking about how the husband or the boyfriend had a knife to the throat or a scissor to the throat of a woman, and I didn't think that should have been part of the use of force. I figured, if I was a cop, I'm thinking I'm protecting that person's life.
Right. Right.
I would say if a person was unarmed and there was a lot of folks in there that was talking about they were unarmed.
Was he referring to the case that happened here with the teenager and the mother?
Yeah. Oh, it was teenager and mother. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
And I think the son was mentally disabled or something.
There's no way an officer's going to know that, especially dealing with a hostile situation like that.
Right. And the other thing you have to keep in mind, I read about that story, is there have been other incidents at the residence involving the son's violent behavior and episodes with the mom. So there's actually a history to show that he had the potential and the ability to actually harm the mom.
Yeah. So I didn't think that should have been part of the forum. It should deal with people that were unarmed, that wasn't really doing anything, and get beat up or get killed by Metro. But that one I didn't like. I think that one just shouldn't have been part of the story. Did you see this one video? It was on Facebook. It was a 9-year-old kid that was beating up on little kids in the daycare center in Mississippi. Apparently, a surveillance camera caught this 9-year-old beating up on a 2-year-old that was in a walker and kicking the heck out of a 5-year-old.
Really?
Yeah. It was a surveillance camera that picked it up. Matter of fact, it's on my Facebook page, and I was so troubled by this video when I first saw it, and I tried to get a hold of the person that actually shared the video, and I couldn't get a hold of that person. So I reported it to Facebook, and then I didn't know where this video took place when I first saw it. So I called up Metro, and Metro sent 2 officers over my house, by the way. They knew who I was before they showed up.
Did they bring their boxing gloves?
No, they didn't bring no boxing gloves. 2 officers showed up, and I also reported it to all the 4 television news stations. But after the officers came there, they dug into it a little bit more and found out that the daycare worker was arrested.
Okay.
Found out that the child was taken into custody. And whatever that means, because he's 9 years old.
Right.
And apparently it's more to the story than just a 9-year-old beating up kids. Apparently this 9-year-old must have been abused, or how would he know how to do all that unless he was taught?
Or it could have been a cartoon, or maybe watching Mom and Dad. Or maybe he got beat up,
or Mom and Dad,
or maybe the bullies are starting to get younger.
Probably, but it looks like this child's going to have a lot of violent problems if they don't take care of it right away. But I wanted to thank Metro for coming out there as quickly as they did, although they did show up in force, though.
But they came.
But they came, and one of the officers was a Marine, and we had a nice conversation. So, yeah,
very cool.
But I also wanted to let everybody know. up until today, there's actually 6,448 U.S. service members that have died in Operations Iraqi Freedom and Operations Enduring Freedom. There have been 6,308 males, 139 females, 4,474 died in Iraq, 1,974 died in Afghanistan. And the ranges from 20 to 24, 2,903 died. 4,062 died in the Army, 1,347 was Marines, 480 National Guard, 198 Navy, 136 Air Force, Army Reserves 120, Marine Reserves 90. And, there was almost 400 died in helicopter accidents.
Wow.
Yeah. 2,484 died in combat, and 2,444 died with an IED, which is those explosive devices. So I just want to let everybody know that,
God bless them.
that there's still a war going on. No matter what the politicians might tell you, we're still having men and women that wear a uniform that are just dying. So
and don't forget all the families that they're a part of. You know, immediate and extended. So, that's a lot of people affected.
That's a lot of folks. That's a lot of folks. And we did a press release talking about sexual assault in the military. I don't know if you were privy of that, but there was a press release that went out with Melody Howard is the person that actually wrote it. She's the president of VIP Nevada. And it has to deal with sexual assault in the military and how the military is not really paying attention to that. Women and men in the military getting raped or sexually assaulted in some fashion. And I remember one of our affiliates in New York put this press release on one of the Channel 8 stations. I believe it was in New York. And somebody said that they responded and said that we should be banned from posting this type of stuff on the news station in New York. And it was a woman that said that. Yeah, I just don't understand the mindset of some folks. They don't want people to know that there's rape and sexual assault going on in the military. Yeah. Or maybe she's just stupid and didn't read it. I don't know. But that's sad. But something? Talking about the Colorado shooting, and I remember I was watching Mike Huckabee. You know who Mike Huckabee is, right? And Mike Huckabee came on, and this is what he said. We don't have a gun problem. We have a mental illness problem. America should pray for the people that died in the Colorado shooting, but what about the 6,500 and still counting American troops? What about the 1.5 million abortions every year? What about the suicide rate that doubles the murder rate every year? As Americans, we shouldn't be surprised when something like the Colorado shooting happens, when America have nothing to turn to. We take God out of our schools, our government, our national anthem, and our military. Why shouldn't we be surprised when all hell breaks loose? And I found that to be very interesting. We highlight these serial killers, and me and Jim Jonas, we talked about it in Lent last week. We highlight these serial killers that going around killing folks, but we don't hear nothing about these men and women coming back from Afghanistan in body bags. I mean, we don't hear nothing about all these suicides that double the murder rate. Right. And then you got all these people out there that want to take God out of everything. And I believe in God, but I'm not a religious fanatic, so to speak. I'm not a right or left. I believe that there's a higher being. But then you got all these people that want to just take God out of everything. They forget that this country was founded. It's founded on God.
That's right. And unfortunately, people like to pick and choose what truths or what harsh realities we live in rather than acknowledge all of them. And in terms of God, a lot of times people only like to seek him when they need him.
Yeah.
What do you think about the Australian lady, the track runner in the Olympics that made those?
I didn't see that.
Yeah, apparently she made some kind of racial comments on her Twitter account. about African Americans.
What she said?
She was unhappy about the mixture over there. I don't remember, and I don't want to misquote it. I did read it though. But the head coach of the Australian team came out and made a public apology, and of course she was kicked off the team. Really? Yeah. It's pretty interesting.
Wow. You know what? While we talk about that, I have never heard anybody refer to liberals as Kool-Aid drinkers as much as I hear now in the same sentence as the U.S. President Barack Obama. And
you didn't hear it with Bush,
some people
Reagan,
that take,
or anybody.
There's some people that take great offense to it. Somebody showed me a news clipping that they referred to Bush as Kool-Aid, drinking up the Kool-Aid, but that was only for one particular thing, was the Iraq. Or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was for Iraq. But when it comes to President Barack Obama, you always hear Kool-Aid in the same sentence with the name Barack Obama, or U.S. President, referring to the one we have currently. And I find it a little offensive, because when you hear Kool-Aid, you think about a black person.
That's right.
Naturally, And then some people try to make it look like, well, we're not talking about just black people. We're just talking about liberals in general, Yeah, what are they talking about? Are they talking about trailer whites, or are they talking about them?
Maybe they need to say water, or beverage or soda pop. But Kool-Aid is a beverage that's definitely attributed to African Americans. Like if we were to say Kung Pao chicken, it makes you think of an Asian.
Exactly.
If we were to say a burrito, an enchilada, you think about a Hispanic or a Latino. So there are certain foods that are attributed culturally with certain people. And if you're going to make comments, then you should be considerate of the person who you're talking about and pick something neutral.
Yeah, but people don't realize that they don't. No, they refuse to understand.
They realize that,
or they understand, but they
don't care enough to change.
They just want to throw it off, make it look like it's something else, but really it's not. And they're hoping that you're just stupid to go along with them.
It'd be like making a comment and referencing a tampon or a maxi pad in it. Those are used by women.
No, those are men.
Of course.
Messing with
you. Okay. The room shifted.
All right, you have any rants?
Oh no, I gave mine.
Okay.
The Australian.
The Australian.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's take a commercial break, and we'll be back momentarily with Victor Miller, Boulder's City Justice of the Peace.
Are you a business owner struggling during these economic times? Please listen up. How would you like to put your business and services in front of every resident and business in the Las Vegas Valley for less than a penny per home? Yes, that's right. I said less than 1 cent per home and business. And how would you like to have a dynamic and exciting online presence with the major search engines? How about an online video for your business and a fully optimized website with absolutely no setup fee? Hi, my name is George. If you are interested in these and other services that can make your phone ring with clients and prospects, then call me at 702-296-8394. Just call George at 702-296-8394. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Steve Sanson. I'm the president of Veterans in Politics International. This country and state are in trouble with budget cuts, unemployment, foreclosures, teacher shortage, dropout rates, terrorism, and a loss of military service members. The outcome of this election will profoundly affect families, both military and non-military. Military men and women are dying for other countries to have the right to vote. As a former member of the United States Marine Corps and the Army, I know how important it is to keep the voters informed. Log on to the website veteransinpolitics.com. All Americans of voting age need to not only vote, but research your choices. The Veterans in Politics organization has taken a proactive approach to supporting candidates who will have the courage to protect all of our freedoms and our Constitution. Visit our website at veteransinpolitics.com. Don't just talk about who you support. Research your choices and vote.
Hey, listen up. If you're a military veteran, if you're related to a veteran, or if you know a veteran, you'll enjoy the Veterans Reporter radio show every Thursday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. with me. I'm your host, Chuck N. Baker. Every week, We will explore veterans' issues, and we'll have guests who will talk about topics of interest to and about the veterans community. And if you don't listen, you'll have to give me 20 push-ups.
Well, we're back. This is Steve Sampson, Andre Haynes of Veterans in Politics. We have live in studio Victor Miller, Boulder City Justice of the Peace. Judge Miller, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, sir?
Sure. I grew up here in Boulder City, or southern Nevada. Went to school here. Went away, went to law school, came back, practiced law, and was lucky enough to find my way on the bench in Boulder City in the municipal court, and then ultimately in the justice court also. I also do juvenile hearings out there as a juvenile hearing master. And I cover Boulder City, Searchlight, and Laughlin with the juveniles. And that's all kind of part-time. So I also have a law practice that I run when I'm not taking care of my 12 children.
Did he say 12 children?
He said 12.
12 children, Judge?
Correct.
How do you have time for 12 children? You're all over the place.
I just keep going where they tell me to go.
So, Judge, are you Mormon?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That's probably the 12 children come from. Tell us a little bit about why you wanted to become a municipal court judge, because you've been on the bench, 28 years now?
28 years. It was February of 1984.
And why isn't anybody running against you up in Boulder? There's no more qualified attorneys up there that want to take you on and take on the position of judge?
Well, there's plenty of qualified attorneys that live up there.
Are they scared of you, Judge? You threaten them?
I do not. I just try to keep my community clean and green, as they say.
Okay. You had a situation up there, I believe, about a year and a half ago. It had to deal with the constable of Boulder City. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, our constable at the time had some substance abuse difficulties and ended up responding in the way that people that are addicted to substances do, and made some really bad decisions, and ultimately had some criminal issues to deal with, and ultimately resolved them by taking his own life. That
never came before you, or did it?
No, it didn't. It would have been a conflict because we worked together, extensively over the years between our two offices. So it was handled through a different justice court.
Somebody make a joke about you because they knew you were coming on. They said Victor Miller's been the judge up there ever since the dam has been constructed.
Yeah. The dam is older than me.
I tried to explain that, but they didn't believe me, Judge.
I was there before the bridge, though.
Speaking of that bridge, I don't know if you're privy to the conversations that they're having about the suicide that's going on with that bridge up there. There have been 4 suicides now, I believe, and 2 happened within a week. Within a week of each other. Yeah. You wanna tell us how you believe that that bridge could be a lot safer instead of attracting people to come down there and jump off of it?
Well, when they talk about the attractiveness, I guess, of the bridge for people who want to take their own life, they don't mention that's been a problem with the Hoover Dam long before, and it would not be unusual to have 4 people in a year take their lives at the dam. It's just maybe it's because it's new and quite a...
And people want to come check it out?
Well, people, they've checked it out, I guess, and then they've looked at how high it is and decided that would do whatever they need to do.
Since you've been judge, 28 years on the bench almost, what's the most heart-wrenching thing that ever came before you?
Well, the heart-wrenching things, I think, are the things that have to do with children. Okay. And when children are the victims of criminal activity, or they're the children of criminals that have to then be taken away from them, or they suffer injury because of it, both physical and emotional injuries. That's quite sad.
You know that there's about 50 judicial seats that are coming up in 2014. In fact, all the district court seats are going to be up on the election block. You ever thought about running for any of those?
Well, I ran for district court in 1994 and did not win.
Well, that was how many years ago was that, Judge?
That was a while ago, and but that just I say that to say that I thought about being a district judge. I began my legal career by clerking for a district judge, Judge Babcock in Department 6, and always have kind of thought that might be a thing to do. But at this point, I love the job that I have in Boulder City because I can see people change. I can make a difference in the community. I can make a difference in people's lives. Whereas I think as a district judge, you're often seeing people one time and then it's and then they're gone unless you were working maybe in a specialty court. That then you could maybe make some changes. But just as a general jurisdiction district judge. You really don't have the opportunities that I have to make some differences in some lives.
Is there a lot of veterans up in your area there in Boulder City?
There are quite a few veterans, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Any of them came before you on any misdemeanor?
Oh, absolutely.
You have Veterans Court, Judge?
We don't. We would love to. We would love to have specialty courts. I've applied for funds to operate specialty courts up there, and we just don't have the numbers, I guess, that the AOC finds that they need to give us money. One of the things that I've been talking to them and other judges about is the opportunity for people in the outlying areas to participate, to send people in to go to the veterans courts or the DUI courts or drug courts. The problem is when you're a separate jurisdiction, we try to do that, and we do that, particularly with the Veterans Court in Henderson, because they're pretty close, and we can send people over there.
So you send them to Judge Stevens then?
Correct. But the problem is that then he doesn't really have the ultimate jurisdiction over these people if they mess up. One of the the things in a specialty court is you want people to comply to. You give them goals, and if they make the goals, then they've improved their lives. If they don't make the goals, then there has to be some negative consequences. Well, since he's not the judge with jurisdiction ultimately over those people, then he's got to send them back to me, and then there's a loss of some time.
Right.
So those things are not as effective,
So what's the solution, Judge?
Some sort of court rules or statute that allows us to share jurisdiction in those matters.
You ever? What would you need to do that? Go before the legislator, or could that be a ordinance you could go before the city council and do?
Well, because the jurisdiction is set up by statute, I think it'd have to be a statutory change.
So in front of the legislators, then.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Tell us a little bit about your practice.
Well, my law practice is I work doing civil litigation. I don't do criminal things, but I do. Okay. I represent people in civil cases. Excuse me. Things dealing with injury cases, domestic cases, probate cases, things such as that.
So you're kind of a jack of all trades, then.
Yeah.
And your office is located?
Decatur and Charleston.
Okay. So do you have a lot of clientele that come through your doors over there?
Oh, we stay busy. Yeah, we do, even in this economy.
Yeah. Before I was going to ask you about your law practice here in Las Vegas, I wanted to get your feedback on the Mongols that came up in Boulder City. Somebody's messing with the door. Any arrest or anything like that with those bikers up there?
There were no arrests that I know of. I believe there's some citations that were issued. They have not come into the court yet.
Right. So they've been good then, huh?
Yeah, I think that they get. I went out of town that weekend, but you
did that deliberately?
It was a prearranged family vacation. but they, it seems that they behave themselves, the police behave themselves, everybody stayed on their side of the line, as it were.
Are you familiar with that biker gang? Do you know how they were formed?
I do not.
You want me to tell you?
Sure.
Out of it was what I was told by some Hell's Angels and some Mongols that some of the candidates that wanted to be part of the Hell's Angels, they wouldn't allow them to be part of the Hell's Angels because of the color of their skin, because they're either black or brown. So they formed the Mongols, and the Mongols takes everybody. So that's how they were formed. Apparently, I don't know if it's now, but I know back in the days, the Hell's Angels was just particularly a white biker group, and they didn't take anybody else except for that. So that's how the Mongols were formed.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So Judge, tell us a little bit more about your day-to-day activity on the bench. Since you're the only judge up in Boulder City, I'm sure everybody knows you. How many people live in Boulder?
There's 16,000.
16,000 people. I'm sure that. And you've been there since
1954.
Jesus Christ. And you've been a judge since
84.
84. Everybody's got to know you up in Boulder City. Why do you think that they don't want gaming up in Boulder? Which Boulder is one of the only cities in the state of Nevada that doesn't have gaming, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
It started as a federal reservation. It wasn't actually a city until 1960. Okay. And so before that, it was run by the federal government, and the federal government would not allow gaming. And by then, the tradition had been established. So when the government was ready to turn us over to our own rule in 1960, and they, I talk like I know what I'm talking about, but I was
even if you don't, the people don't believe you anyway.
7 years old at the time,
right.
But the the people was part of, they liked it that way. Right. So part of the requirement to become a city, they made it that it would remain gaming free.
Well, Laughlin tried to become a city, and that got shut down. So I don't know why. They said that they can't handle it on their own, is what I was getting from the county commissioners.
It's expensive to be a city. You have to have a police department. You have to have a fire department. You have to have a recreation department. You have to have a court. All those things cost money, and to start it up is where the expense is. Okay. You have to buy police cars. You have to buy buildings.
Well, I wanted to say congratulations on winning your election, although everybody in Boulder City is scared of you. So I just want to put that out there.
Thank you.
And you're doing a hell of a job up there in Boulder City, Judge Miller.
Thanks. Appreciate it very much.
Do you have anything else to say?
No, I would like to go back to when you were talking about a veterans court, and that I have, I deal with, since we don't have that, I deal with the veterans there. And between when I started and now, it's like night and day with respect to the support that we get from the VA in the processes that they have to help veterans. They work with us. They'll report to us. If we send somebody down there for some substance counseling or violence or PSTD counseling, they get those services, and then they report back to the court and let us know what's going on. So we didn't have that when I started. Right. It was so I appreciate those whoever's made that happen to help and support our veterans. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, and I just want to let everybody know that Boulder City has the Veterans Home, which is the only home in the state, or one of two?
I think it's the only one in the state.
Right, that's located in Boulder City, and you have Boulder City has the second recognized veteran cemetery in the state of Nevada. Because there's a couple other veteran cemetery, but it's not recognized by the state. Boulder City is one of the two that is recognized.
Right, there's one here, and I think in Fallon, where the other one is. The one in Boulder, I was over there. You were there when I was there last. And there were, from the 5 years difference, it's 5 times as big. Right. It's being really utilized.
And that's sad, though.
Yeah.
Come to think of it.
Come to think of it, absolutely.
Right.
But I think a lot of what happens is we're kind of a retirement community
Right.
in southern Nevada, and so a lot
Right.
of veterans, when they're done working, come in here, and then this is where they are when they end their life. But when the cemetery was started, it did not have a facility for services, and so, excuse me. So I worked with a committee to raise about $4 million to build a chapel there to hold services in. So
Well, thank you for that.
Sure.
I didn't even know that, and I thought I knew everything.
yeah, it was Operation Godspeed who raised that money. So.
All right. You want to give us your contact information, Judge?
Sure. Of course, if you need me out in Boulder City, I'm at the court, 455-8000. If you need me at my law office, it's 877-4779, Decatur and Charleston.
Well, thank you, Judge Miller, for being on the show.
Absolutely.
That's Judge Victor Miller, Boulder City Justice of the Peace. This is Steve Sampson, Andre Haynes with Veterans in Politics. Don't go away, folks. We have Phil Kohn, the Clark County Public Defender. Although a lot of people don't know who the public defender is, Andre, but we're going to find out.
I don't know today.
Did you see the press release Veterans in Politics sent out in support of Clark County District Court Judge Alicia Kadish to the federal bench?
Yes, in 2008, Veterans in Politics endorsed 22 judicial candidates in the primary. Only 4 candidates did not become a judge. This was the same year they endorsed District Court Judge Alicia Kadish. Judge Kadish was one of the 18 of their endorsed recipients that is a sitting judge today.
Yeah, they take pride in their selection of candidates, especially when it comes to our judges. Judges are the first line of defense, and they immediately impact our daily lives.
I wonder if anybody knows that Judge Kadish was appointed to the district court seat by former Republican Governor Jim Gibbons to replace former district court judge Joe Bonaventure.
Yeah, as a jurist, Judge Kadish consistently demonstrates fairness, impartiality, and a dedication to upholding the law, regardless of whether she agrees with it. She follows the law and not legislates from the bench, which is what Republicans look for in a jurist.
Yeah, it is ironic, to say the least, that Republican U.S. Senator Dean Heller is now blocking Judge Kadish's federal judicial nomination because she insisted on following the law.
Yeah, what he is using is a questionnaire Judge Kadish filled out in May 2008 from the group Citizens of Responsible Government. They asked Judge Kadish a question concerning the Second Amendment. The question they ask is, do you believe the individual citizen has a constitutional right to keep and bear arms?
I remember that. Kadish responded, I do not believe that there is this constitutional right, but I believe that reasonable restrictions may be imposed on gun ownership in the interest of public safety. Of course, I will enforce the laws as they exist as a judge.
That was a correct statement of law at the time. Individual citizens did not have a constitutional right to keep and bear arms. Reasonable restrictions could be imposed on gun ownership in the interest of public safety. Therefore, Judge Kadish's response demonstrated that she was well-versed and knowledgeable in this important area of the law. Moreover, she indicated she would enforce the law as they exist. In other words, Judge Kadish not only understood the law, but affirmed she would apply it regardless of her personal opinion.
Yeah, later the law changed. In District of Columbia versus Heller and McDonald versus City of Chicago, the United States Supreme Court held that the Second Amendment protects an individual right to possess firearms, and that this right is fundamental and fully applicable to the states through incorporation in the...
Well, we're back. This is Steve Sampson, Andre Haynes of Veterans in Politics. We have Phil Kohn, who is the Clark County Public Defender. Phil, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Steve?
All right. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I've been public defender since April of 2004. Before that, I was doing death penalty cases for a number of years. I've been in private practice, and I started my career in the Santa Barbara DA's office. I'd gone to school at UCSB and was lucky enough to get back there when I started my practice.
You used to be a cop, right?
I was before I went to law school.
How did you become a public defender when you used to be a cop?
Well, it's a real long
I think you'd be
path.
more of a prosecutor.
Well, I started as a prosecutor. I was in Isla Vista as a police officer. It was a great opportunity. It was right after the riots. I had a mentor at the university.
You talking about the Rodney King riots?
No, there were some riots during the Vietnam War.
He's old school.
I thought I was going to say the watch riots.
No, during the Vietnam War, the day that 4 students were killed at Kent State, there were a number of riots at UCSB. Some buildings were burned. They were rough times. There was a student shot by the sheriff's department when I was a student. I was very vocal and very concerned about that. And I had a chancellor of the university who challenged me, says, if you think you can do it better, you were pretty critical of the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Department, show me you can do it better. And I spent 3 years doing that, and I walked a beat in Isla Vista, and it was a great experience.
So that's a little bit different than what you do now. When you were a police officer, you were cuffing people and locking them up and being a witness for the prosecution, and now you are on the other side of the fence. How does that feel?
I was doing the same then. I was making sure that justice was done, and now as public defender, I'm still doing justice. So it's consistent.
Yeah, that's a good answer, huh?
That is.
Well, let's talk a little bit about justice, Phil. Hardly anybody know who the public defender is. They always know who the district attorney is, but they don't know who the public defender is. Why is that? And a matter of fact, do you think the public defender should be an elected position? Maybe people might pay attention then.
Well, that was my answer. The reason why one would know who the district attorney is and not the public defender is I'm an appointed position.
And who appointed you, by the way?
The county commission.
Okay.
The Clark County County Commission. I serve at the will of the county commission.
Back in 2004, who was on the county commission back then?
Roy Reed.
Okay.
Bruce Woodbury.
Okay.
Let me think.
Myrna Williams.
I don't remember if she was on yet. I think she was.
She was. Aaron Kenny.
Aaron Kenny was.
Dario Herrera
was.
Lance Malone.
I think so. And Kincaid. I would think that'd be the 7, but I'm not sure.
Chancey Kincaid.
Yes.
Yeah. See, damn. How do I know him? Well, was it unanimous?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
But
congratulations.
Thank you. But to answer your question, should it be elected? I've thought a lot about that. In Florida, all of the public defenders are elected. And when I went back to Florida and met with a couple of public defenders to see their program when I was a new public defender, I asked about that. And there's a movie that I recommend to everyone, Murder on a Sunday Morning. It won an Academy Award for a documentary.
Right.
It's about some work that the Jacksonville public defender did. A 15-year-old black kid was arrested because a homicide happened in his neighborhood, and he literally was the first kid, and the suspect was black, and he clearly was the first kid that those law enforcement officers saw. They built a case around him, and they had the wrong guy. And from some really good work with the public defender's office in Jacksonville, a young man was acquitted. And I was recently asking about those public defenders and what they're doing now. I was actually talking to the people who presented the film, and they said that the PDs who were on that case are gone. The fact is, it was an elected position. Someone ran for public defender on a Get Tough on Crime platform, if you can imagine that, was elected, and he got rid of all of the senior deputies, hired people right out of law school, and the whole office was populated by brand new lawyers.
And you got about 180?
I have 110 lawyers.
110 lawyers working for you.
And so if you have an elected public defender, that could happen. So I suspect that the appointed position, considering what we do and the stances we have to take, I think we're much better in an appointed situation.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Let's talk about something more controversial now. The coroner's inquest. Do you think that we should have a coroner's inquest versus a grand jury? Because let me explain myself a little bit better. In the state of New York, when it comes to excessive force and OIS, which is officer-involved shootings, they have a grand jury that determine if an officer should have criminal charges facing against them. Over here, we have a coroner's inquest, which I believe it's not really fair because you don't have all those things that you could use in a regular court of law than it is in coroner's inquest because of the PPA that's protecting a lot of these police officers. So do you think that we should have a grand jury instead of a coroner's inquest in the state of Nevada, or in Clark County for that matter?
Well, I was on the commission that was impaneled by the county commission, was it 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, to try to make some reforms to the coroner's inquest.
Okay.
We spent a great deal of time. I believe the community was well represented on that commission by people from every walk of life. And we came up with some reforms, and of course, that's not fair. The PPA did not agree with them, and so they've done everything they can to keep those reforms from being at least observed and see if they work. Is a grand jury better? Well, in most states, and I don't know how the grand jury works in New York, but in this, I've practiced both in California and Nevada. The grand juries are secret. The only one who presents is the district attorney. And so to my way of thinking, it really wouldn't change things. The reason that I believe we made some great changes that have never come to fruition on the coroner's inquest is that we put forth the ombudsman idea so that the public would also be represented and have some questions asked of the police officers and any from the coroner's inquest. We also agreed they'd be televised. So I believe in transparency. I believe that we came up with the right answer. We never have had a chance to see it work. But I'm not sure that a grand jury is better, but we don't know because we haven't tried the new process yet.
Well, they're using the grand jury here, but not on police shooting. They just used the grand jury for that one 22-year-old individual that hammered the woman and the 10-year-old child. And they used the grand jury for that because I was reading the transcripts earlier this week. But if they could use a grand jury for that, and it seems like it's working, why couldn't they use a grand jury for an officer involved in a shooting or excessive force?
Well, we can try that next, but I'm comfortable with the amount of time we put in and the looking at other states, and I think what we came up with in November of 2010 were good reforms, and I would like to see them work. Just because, again, a grand jury is secret, and only one side is asking questions, and I think that's what leads to some of the problems that we've seen on the coroner's inquest.
Well, as you can see, that the coroner's inquest has been at a stalemate since 2010, and the person that's making the decision right now is the district attorney. Do you think that's the way to go?
No. I think we need a transparent system where the public gets a chance to see why that particular officer made that decision. Okay. So no, I don't. I mean, if nothing comes about from these reforms, then certainly we'll go back to a situation that happens in most states where a district attorney just decides whether or not he or she is going to file charges, and then the electorate can decide if they made the right choice later.
And you know something, we all know that a district attorney is elected. A district attorney, he campaigns to get the people's votes, and part of his campaign he tries to get endorsements. And a lot of the endorsements he wants to get is from the PPA, from Metro, from the county marshals, from the supervisory, from Metro, and all that stuff. So a district attorney is trying to get as many endorsements as possible to either get elected or regain re-election. So do you think that there's a conflict there when a district attorney is the one that's going to decide whether an officer should be prosecuted or not, when it's the same district attorney that goes in front of these boards that ran by office to get endorsement to get reelected or elected?
Well, there are very few politicians that don't run on a get tough on crime platform, which is why I said earlier that the public defender cannot be elected. But clearly that's a problem, which is why the commission put forth the idea of an ombudsman, that someone that doesn't just represent the families, represents the public in general, and is not beholden to anyone, but is not running for re-election. I mean, when I think of the people that we had lined up to be the ombudsman, Dave Wall, who had been on the bench and been in our office and been in the DA's office, Mark Hutchinson, who's running for the Senate and was the representative from the governor who opposed the health care. I mean, we had people that did not have an axe to grind, were not looking for any type of endorsement. So I think if you put both the district attorney and someone who's not elected in the room asking questions, I think we would have come up with a good result.
All right. Do you think that, and I'm sure that you're going to have input when it comes to policy changes with Metro, and a lot of people that don't want to say anything will say, well, that's only the sheriff, which I know that I know that the sheriff reaches out to the community in leadership positions such as yourself. True? Sometimes, maybe?
The sheriff and I were both on that commission, and we both voted the same way, so yes.
Okay. So do you think that a police officer, every time that a police officer discharges his or her weapon, do you think that officer should be treated the same as a suspect that's dead by getting a drug and alcohol test? So in other words, every time a dead suspect that's been killed by a police officer, they always drug and alcohol test them, and they say, well, this person had methamphetamines in the system. That's probably why he acted this way. That's probably why he ended up dead by that officer's weapon. Do you think the officer, on the other hand, that actually is making that fatal shot should also be drug and alcohol tested to make sure that officer was in the sound mind and body as well?
Yes.
Okay. I like this guy.
It's fair.
Yeah. All right. Do you think there should be a cap on paid administrative leave? Because, all these officers involved shooting, some of these officers have been on paid administrative leave for, past 2 years now? Yeah. Do you think that there should be a cap on that paid administrative leave, maybe 6 months, 3 months, instead of getting paid by taxpayers for a year and a half, 2 years, just sitting at home, hanging out?
The lawyer in me tells you, no, you can't have a cap. You cannot have a police officer who's under that cloud of having fired a weapon in the line of duty be put in that position again. A lawyer would just jump on him no end. So liability-wise, to the county and to Metro and to us as taxpayers, no, I know it's hard to swallow the fact that police officer's on administrative duty for whatever time, and it's unfortunate we're in the situation where we're on hold with the coroner's inquest. We should not be in this long hold, but liability-wise, no, I think we have to eat this one.
Really?
Yes, I do.
How about this one? And I brought this one up to both the sheriff and Doug told me that it's a constitutional violation, which I don't believe. And the DA is telling me that it's the sheriff's decision. So he's pointing the finger to the sheriff. Let me ask you about PTSD training. Now, PTSD training is only done at a voluntary. It's not mandatory for all police officers to have PTSD training. And the only ones that have PTSD training is the Crisis Awareness Intervention Unit that has PTSD training. So when I bring this up to the sheriff, he's telling me that it's a constitutional violation, that everybody shouldn't be PTSD trained or what have you. And my whole look on PTSD training, you have 2.5 million veterans that are returning back from the wars, okay? And not only the 2.5 million veterans that are returning back from the wars, you also have people, civilians that have been suffered horrors, victim of rape, or seen a terrible car accident, or seen a murder take place, or what have you, domestic violence. All these folks have PTSD. So don't you think if an officer is supposed to be that person that's protect and to serve the community as a whole, don't you think that officers should be trained in recognition of PTSD? That way he could de-escalate a situation instead of escalating a situation, which resulting to that officer have to use deadly force?
Well, absolutely. I can't imagine the constitutional prohibition. I think we live in a time, I'm certainly suffering in our office, economic difficulties. We live in this horrible economic time, that government is blamed for so many of our problems, and people don't want to pay taxes to have the good schools in our community. And I suspect that the problem is that we don't have the money and the resources to train every police officer as we train the CIT officers. But I would agree with you. I would see not only for the veterans, but the kids who live in our poorest neighborhoods who've seen homicides they're going to suffer post-traumatic stress disorder too. And you're right, victims of rape and victims of constant battery. So I would love to see our police officers more trained, and I would vote for taxes to do that. And
I need to make a correction. The sheriff said it was a constitutional violation for officers to be drug and alcohol tested, not the PTSD training. So I just want to make a correction of that.
I figured you meant that.
Yeah, because my mind always juggles up sometimes. So how could we improve our society when it comes to officers relating to our citizen?
Same answer just gave. More training.
Okay.
I think the sheriff has done a good job. All three sheriffs that I've worked with have done a good job of diversifying Metro. But the more people train, and certainly the more, and I learned that from my own experience working on a footbeat, the more the officers are closer to the public. When they work a foot and bike beat, and you get to know people in the neighborhood, you're not afraid of them.
Right.
You're not an occupying force. I think the more police officers, Metro does it, they have a lot of officers on bike, but the more people that are on bike and walking foot in neighborhoods, the better we're going to have a rapport between police and citizenry.
Phil, why do you think my co-host is so quiet?
I don't know, but let's let him join us.
Steve is doing a great job.
Go ahead, Andre.
He's doing a great job. Wow.
You know something, Phil, while Andre is collecting his thoughts over there, I got to ask you this one other question, and this deals with police profiling. Now, this is what I was told, and I don't know how true it is, but I was told this by North Las Vegas PD. There's an ordinance in the city of North Las Vegas that says if you have your weapon, your weapon cannot be in your vehicle, even if you have your blue registration card. Even if you're a CCW carrier, your weapon has to be on your person. It cannot be laying in the glove compartment or under your seat. It can't be in the vehicle unless it's on your person with your CCW. And if you have blue registration card, your weapon can't even be nowhere in your vehicle. This is a North Las Vegas ordinance. And I was told by North Las Vegas PD that they use this ordinance for profiling individuals to arrest them. What do you think? Do you think that North Las Vegas city ordinance should be the same like everybody else?
Steve, I'm not familiar with that, but I would certainly think that for our citizens, the more consistent the laws are from community to community. Judge Miller was on here before and talking about Boulder City, and you have Henderson, and you have so many small communities in Clark County.
Right.
It would be good to have consistent laws so people don't pass one street not knowing they've gone from city to city and become a criminal when they just did nothing more but drive down the street.
And I'm going to ask you another controversial question. You're familiar with the Eric Scott situation?
Yes.
When all three officers discharged their weapons upon Eric Scott. Now, I was told this by police officers, and I know a lot of police officers, and a lot of police officers tell me stuff that I can't even say their names because of what they tell me. They tell me it's a locker room talk, that if one officer discharges weapon on the suspect, then every single other officer that have their weapon drawn on the suspect fires as well. The reason for this is because you can only it's harder to go after several officers than it is to go after just one officer. Do you find any truth in that?
No, I've never heard that, nor do I believe it, because I know what training I had, 35, 40 years ago. I don't remember anymore. And you don't want to crossfire.
You don't want to crossfire?
You don't want to crossfire.
Okay. What happened if they're all aiming at the same direction?
They're going to hit something wrong.
Okay. Andre, was glad to have you here today.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, Phil. It's a pleasure to talking with you, and we really appreciate your what would you say? Direct approach.
Yep.
And answer these questions.
Honesty and transparency.
Well, thank you.
Do you have a contact information you want to give out?
Oh no, I mean we have a website, and people want to get a hold of us. Know how to get a hold of us.
He goes, no, everybody afford your own attorney. That's Phil Kohn, Clark County Public Defender. This is Steve Sanson, Andre Haynes of Veterans in Politics. Until next week.
Who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up. views and opinions expressed on this program were those of the hosts and guests and did not necessarily reflect those of Vegas All Net Radio, its affiliates, or its parent company.